Okay, so jumping into the third puzzle about home bias and portfolios, what do we mean by that? So, if you look at, say, the 1980s, especially, and it becomes less strong in the 1990s, probably could follow it up here, but I'm basing this lecture on a paper that was published in the early 2000s. Um, Basically, people invest a lot at home. I'm sure that hasn't changed. If you look at sort of uh, the equity holdings of Americans, so how much the type of stocks that American stockholders own, 94% in the 1980s were in the US stock market. So it was American companies. Japanese, it's the same thing. How much of the Japanese stockholders, how much of their equity is held in Japanese stocks? It turns out that it's 98%. And then, it gets moderated a bit in the 90s, but it's still very high, like above 90% or above. And why is this a puzzle? If you're going to hold stock, it would make more sense actually for you to buy as, without any of this trade cost stuff that we're going to talk about, sort of ex ante, you'd think it would make more sense for you to hold your stock abroad. So that way, if there's a shock to your own country, one country is hit by a humongous earthquake or something, and the economy is in a really bad situation. Well, that's going to cause the stocks to lose value there, as people think that the companies aren't going to have as high future earnings as they expected. And if I work in that country, I'm also going to lose my labor income. So I'm sort of getting hit twice. It would make a lot more sense for me to invest in outside countries, and that way, if I lose my labor income, hopefully my shocks were not correlated with the shocks in those countries abroad. So it's very puzzling on the face of it. And you can see there's a little graph here that I'll just briefly mention. So this is, I actually don't recall exactly where I got this. It says from Tessar and Werner, which makes me think that I got it from a different paper, which was quoting Tessar and Werner. But anyway, what you see here is on the y-axis, this is the fraction of total portfolio in foreign stocks. And then this is different countries in the world. And what you see is, very few countries have more than, say, 20% of their total portfolio in foreign stocks. So you can see that in these European countries, where the countries are relatively small, you're more likely to have a higher share of holdings in foreign stocks. Having said that, we're still talking about 20%. We're not talking about 70%, which on the face of it would be what would make sense. All right. So how are we gonna use trade costs to explain this puzzle? Ooh, I went to the last page. I should have gone to the next page. Where were we? There. This page. Okay, so let me give you the intuition first. I'll do my best. The intuition here is a bit difficult, so I'm going to try my best, and then we'll go through the model. Okay. So basically, what we want to imagine is that countries want to smooth their risks. Okay, so they want to invest everywhere, but suppose that my economy is hit, so I want to sort of consume. It's difficult. So suppose there's some shock, not to my economy. Let's suppose that the foreign economy is having a really good year, so I want to consume part of the good things that are happening abroad. The problem is that when I sort of want to bring the goods from abroad to my own country so I can consume them, some of them fall off the ship because of trade costs. So actually, I can't really enjoy that upside as much as I would like to. So because of that sort of my inability to enjoy the gains that I would get from owning equity in foreign companies, I might not want to invest in the foreign country as much as I would if there were no trade costs. So again, how does it work? I own stock in foreign companies. Things are doing really well abroad. I want to, consume some of these foreign earnings. But the problem is that, on the way to my country, some of the goods that I'd like to sort of enjoy fall off the ship. So it's not as attractive an investment as it would be if there were no trade costs. So that's my best attempt at explaining the intuition there. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I will jump into the model that will make that intuition more formal.